Start.
The Legend of the Royal Spring. It was a long time ago, although some say not that long. Those were the days when merchant ships visited the city of Goleniów, often and more densely along the banks of the river. Thanks to the river Ina, Goleniów prospered and thrived, and a wide variety of people and goods flowed in. In short, it was the city's golden age. Meanwhile, in the subterranean kingdom of all things evil, demons, devils, and fallen angels, one of the evil minion spirits serving Beelzebub, Hell's gatekeeper, stopped before his master's chamber. He knocked on the door. "Get in, you moron," answered a booming, raspy voice. Beelzebub was the absolute worst master. As he entered the chamber, he heard more foul words than should ever be repeated. He kneeled. "You wanted to see me, master?" His voice gave away his insecurity. He was trembling with fear. "What took you so long?" Never mind." Beelzebub shook his frizzy mane. "How can I serve you? Did I give you permission to speak?" Beelzebub snapped. And seeing the growing terror gripping his servant, he smirked. "Well then, let's get down to business. After your previous unsuccessful mission to widen the Ina River," he glanced menacingly in the servant's direction, "I was scolded by the mighty Lucifer, the Lord of all himself. I think you know what that means. No, please, silence. I will be merciful this time, and I will give you one more chance. Just remember, if you fail me again, your punishment will be fourfold. I won't take no for an answer," he smiled. "You have access to many thoughtless creatures. Choose the most suitable and put it in the Ina River so that no ship can carry any cargo, and I mean any, even the tiniest of parcels. I can already picture the empty stalls and impoverished merchants. I can hear the people cry, 'This is going to be glorious.'" He fell into his fantasy and smiled blissfully, but shrieked in an instant. "Now be off. I have more important things to do." And once again, he smiled at his ominous thoughts. The servant stood up and left the chamber hurriedly. He couldn't stop shaking. Cold sweat purled on his forehead. His master's voice still rang in his ears. "Of all the demons, why did this have to happen to me?" he mumbled. Without delay, he went to Hell's barracks in order to find an appropriate monster. A couple of minutes later, he found the perfect vermin for this particular job. It was a demonic fish, or rather, a sea demon. It resembled a huge fat pike with 16 big sharps in its mouth. Its skin was covered with dark brown spines like a pufferfish, and much like a pufferfish, it could puff up into a spiky ball. The next day, the sea demon was released and swimming in the Ina River when two boys from Goleniów went fishing. Unaware of the danger, they set up their nets. After a short while, the nets started to twitch slightly and bubbles of air appeared on the water's surface, much like a broth simmering on the stove. The boys went knee-deep into the water to check the net, but found only one little ordinary fish. No sooner than one of the boys finished taking the nets out of the water, the sea demon appeared out of nowhere. It swallowed the fish and dragged the boys into the depths of the Ina River. Everything happened so fast that the other boy didn't even have time to scream. No one believed the boy's story until a few days later, when sailors said he saw that the exact same monster, which hit his ship while it docked by the granary, causing some bags of valuable cargo to fall into the water. Still, there remained 3 skeptics who eventually surrendered their disbelief when the bloodthirsty monster jumped out of the water and tried to eat a log driver. Luckily, the fish demon was late by a split second. It jumped with great impetus over the man, who managed to wince just in time. Infuriated, the creature dove into the river with an enormous splash. Many of Goleniów's residents witnessed the event. Upon learning about the monster, Prince Bogusław, who was at that time in Goleniów mourning the loss of his brother Barnim, summoned the court wise men, and ordered him to find a way to get rid of the menace. The wise men spent 2 sleepless days and nights thinking, when finally fatigue took him over. He had a strange dream. An angel appeared to him and said, "Take some villagers with buckets and lead them far along the Ina into the forest. Have them remove the water there, and in a week your troubles will be over." The wise men did as he was told. What else was he supposed to do? After 2 days, the water level dropped, but the villagers pushed on with their work. They didn't stop until the entire 7 days had passed. After a week, there was so little water in the Ina that the monster could not possibly survive. But oddly enough, there was no sign of the sea devil anywhere. It had most likely found its way into the Baltic Sea, where it lies in wait for its next victims. A few years later, in the spot where the villagers had taken the water out of the Ina River, a spring was discovered. People named it the Royal Spring, so they would never forget it was thanks to Prince Boguslav and his wisdom that they could live without fear. Unfortunately, the level of water in the Ina was so low that no ship could ever sail it again. Instead, it became a safe haven for fish, ducks, and swans. The end.